Alright, some steady progress on this. Wait, what? Oh motherfuck! Son of a... So you clicked on this video. That means you either misclicked or are interested in making your own heist. Well, you came to the right place. Personally, I have released one map that sucked, then unlisted, and I'm a bit burned out from messing in the editor. However, I think I can pull off some tutorial for you. This tutorial is to get you on editing. It will try to cover plenty of important things, but some might be skipped either by accident or simply because you can pull it off without them. Here's a list of things you should learn from this video. So let's get some mods, shall we? Installing the BeardLib Editor requires 4 things: having Payday 2, having Super BLT, having BeardLib, and having all mods turned off other than custom maps or purely visual or audio changes. Reasoning is simple. BeardLib Editor needs BeardLib, and for that you need Super BLT. If you don't have it installed, simply Google Super BLT, click download latest DLL, extract the file from zip to Payday 2 folder, launch Payday 2 and agree for installation of BLT. Voila! You have mod capabilities, to some degree. Most however need BeardLib to be used. So go to Mod Workshop, download it, then simply extract contents of the folder. Run the game to check if you have it installed. If you see a bird on the top left of the new tab, you have it installed successfully. Now about BeardLib Editor, BLE from now on. It isn't on the Mod Workshop, or rather, it is, but page was basically never updated, so I expect info being outdated. Go to download link and you should be on GitHub. I know, scary stuff. It's not really scary here unlike the other projects, since you click code, download zip and extract it like a normal mod. Reminder if you have mods on. Turn them off by taking them out of the folder. BLE is a mod that lets you create maps. You need to consider players playing it will be on vanilla or at least slightly modified game. So don't play with mods like Crackdown and Restoration or even model replacements. Game might not recognize them or it will just look odd for the person who plays without the model. With that out of the way, Payday 2 menu on the left should have 2 more icons. Now, to simply start this bad boy up. To make a map, there's 2 ways. Either go to Settings, BLE menu, or click on the cube on the left. You should be on the Project tab. Click New and Map. It will prompt you to give 3 different names, which sounds confusing. Project means the main folder, aka where your maps are stored. Narrative is mission, so you can have something like border crossing plus border cleansers in one package. Level is basically a day you have in narrative. It has to be unique. You don't want test maps from 2 different people to match and crash, right? Easiest way is to call all 3 by your contractor's codename, or shortened version. With just 2 characters, you have 676 unique names, not even adding underscore location after. You could add third if you are really worried, but 17k possibilities is a bit of an overkill. As long as you don't plan to get this heist out to the public, you can copy what I write down in this. Project, BLE tutorial. Narrative, BLE basic. Level, BLE day. Now simply go to the levels and click our new project. If it doesn't appear, restart the game. Cool, we got into the map. I can already smell victory in no-list mods in 2026.
This heist offers a lot and is well worth the install for anyone looking for more missions.
But we cannot move our camera. Mod borked. Do not worry you dummy, how about you do what we all did as kids not understanding a language. Click random shit until it works. You fly with WSAD, QE for verticality and move camera by holding shift and change speed with scroll. Left clicking selects an object, right clicking either adds or removes objects from selection. You can see there's currently 3 things on the map. Some human model, a small platform and some chain. We'll get to it in a second. First, on the top of the screen there's following buttons. Grid size, how big steps you make with selected things. Angle rotation lock, how big rotation snap is allowed. Move and rotate options, R and T hotkeys respectively. Show editor objects, F3 hotkey, we'll get to that. Show elements, F4 hotkey, we'll get to that. Ignore first ray casting. Select second object behind the cursor, so if there's 2 objects within each other, the outer one gets skipped. Orientation transform, whether you do changes from local coordinates or 000s. Teleport to camera to object, you probably won't use it. Teleport player to camera, let you teleport to camera, although it's a bit clunky. Deselect and BeardLib Editor settings. There is also a hotkey F10, which lets us playtest the map. In this mode, if you activated it, even by accident, avoid saving. Some things may bug out or even corrupt, and we don't want that. Falling out of the map makes you teleport to the nearest navigation range in single player. We'll get to that. Or other player in multiplayer. If all of you fall down to the void, that's a restart. To safely leave, restart the map. But those are tiny things compared to the proper tools. World section, Selection section, Spawn menu, Selections menu, Tools, Options and Save option. Hotkey Ctrl S. You'll mainly use these to do stuff. So that's cool and all. How do we add objects? You click Spawn menu and choose what sounds interesting. Objects in this game are called units, and it will be the name we will use from now on. Then, you simply take it to the platform and place it. Done! 11 out of 10. Revolutionary! You can change the location rotation by using the T and R hotkeys we talked about just a minute ago. A lot of the units have something called variation mesh or sequences. They basically are animations and or states the things are in. This ladder, for example, can be thrown down. However, you need to be careful. Sometimes units have a one-way animation. Here, you throw a ladder, it stays thrown forever. So if that happens, you will either need to use element unit sequence or delete and add it back. Save by clicking floppy disk or Ctrl F. You can see, however, that this ladder doesn't have a collision. For this, you need a dev object, something that normally is invisible to the player. Write dev_ladder and place it where you think the ladder will drop. When you deselect, you will probably panic because it's gone, we cannot. Oh right! Done! In case you cannot select it with cursor, you can go to select menu and search for dev_ladder. Save, and now we can playtest with F10. Try to climb where you put the ladder. If it doesn't work from the proper side, try it from the other, and after restarting the level, rotate it and save again. If you need more than a ladder, you're a greedy pig, but you can improvise a level with mocap units. Type mkp_, and there should be units for quick prototyping. You can also duplicate selected elements by holding Alt and moving them in any direction. Will save you time in the future. Lovely, we can climb the ladder, but we don't exactly have it, since you can climb it without ladder even being dropped. We'll get basic elements in. They go into 3 categories: triggers, activators, and miscellaneous. They aren't actually called like that, but I'm calling them so we get the basic grasp. We need a trigger, something which will activate under certain conditions. For that we will use basic, probably one of the most used elements, area trigger. Basically, if you get into its range, it activates something. Place it somewhere on the platform. This white cube represents its range, where it considers players to be. By default, they are one of the few elements that spawn with one use, so if it's something like secure zone, remember to change it. For now, we just want ladder to activate. We have a trigger, we just need an activator. For this, we use unit sequence element. It makes unit change its mesh, does animation/behavior. Place it somewhere and click manage trigger list, find your unit, and in the drop down menu, look for a state you want it in. Leave the menu and now element should draw green arrow to the unit you've selected. You can speed up marking process by holding space and left clicking on unit, when you have element or unit dependent element selected. Go back to area trigger and click manage on executed list and find your unit sequence. Select it and leave. You can speed it up with Ctrl, then left clicking on any element. Now save the map and playtest. When you get in area trigger, your ladder should drop and be climbable. You can add bonus touch by making ladders unclimbable, then change it when you get on the area trigger. Congratulations! You made the most basic mission logic. If only there was a way to speed this up. Oh wait! Instances are pretty much prefabs, or templates, of most basic stuff you'll probably use within the heist. Hopefully you've understood previous section how elements work, because we go in a bit deeper. Let's start with something basic to not scare you away. Police intro is a good start. This is the logic you see during branch bank heist when police comes in. Place it in your world, then save and restart. A lot of these, if not all, simply won't work if you put them and keep them in. As you can see, there's no variation mesh or anything. Editor isn't broken, instances are called world inside the world for a reason. Their units and elements are simply not in our world. We'll make a simple change to the instance later. We go into elements and choose instance input event. Do not confuse it with instance input. When we put it in a world, go into manage trigger list and choose our instance. In drop down menu, you can choose what happens. In our case, we only want 2 vehicles to drive in, so select the instance twice and give it SWAT and police car to event. Given you've marked it properly, connect it to area trigger, new or old, I don't care. Save and playtest. Hooray! We've got police coming in! That's a start. Now how about to cook some crystal? Go into instance tab and spawn a meth lab. Pretty simple stuff. Remember to save and restart. We'll use instance input event. We want it so if you go over the area trigger, it spawns meth. Simple enough, choose our instance and input event and click spawn meth. Save, restart and playtest. If set up right, you should have crystal meth on the table. But what if you want something to happen after interaction with instance? Instance output event is our friend. Do not confuse it with instance output. Place it somewhere, select our meth lab, and make it so it does something after meth taken. Here we'll simply rewire it so when we take the meth, police arrives. And done! With just this, you could technically make a heist. But hey, remember that this game has multiple difficulties. Do you remember that SWAT van? It has a turret which can randomly spawn. You would like that all. It doesn't have anything in either IIE or IOE about it, so we're fucked? Not entirely. Click the instance and clone instance. It'll make a version of an instance that's only within our project. Give it a unique name, as usual. Game will ask you if you want to replace the old one. And click yes. What would be the point if not? Remember to save the map. Now we're going to edit instance. After loading in, you can clearly see this is just editor within editor, although some elements are very far from the original point. That doesn't matter, we just want turrets to be off. Look for a filter or difficulty level check element, and you should find our problematic fellow. Like with most stuff, there's plenty of ways to do something. You can either remove filters, remove sequences of the turret, both, or just unlink them. Save, then in the world menu return to original level button. Try this map again in any difficulty and you'll see that turret never shows up. Also heads up, in the future you can go to debug menu and change the difficulty on the fly. Although best to do it before you click playtest. Phew, okay, that was a lot, but we're not done yet. Elements are up, and they're just as important. This is a beefy section, and some of these elements don't work as intended, are unused, or simply crash the game. If you're lost what element does, there is an official wiki to BLE located under this link. Just be mindful that not everything is explained. I'll explain basic ones. Area trigger. You already know. It checks for something or someone in the area, then triggers it. Mission script. It does something by itself. As the icon suggests, it's an element to chain other parts of the mission, so they don't go to the 30 different triggers. Debug. Shows you debug text of what you've said, something you'll only see in editor mode of the map. It can work as a subtitle or information. Whisper state. Makes the map in stealth mode. Map by default starts in pseudo stealth. Bots attack, civs are scared, alarm can be raised. With this on, preferably on startup of the map, everything should be in regular stealth. Spawn enemy dummy. It'll have its own section, for now just know that it spawns enemies untriggered. Loot bag. Logically, spawns a loot bag. Choose ID, change multiplayer and move the final angle with arrow keys, which will be painful. Instigator rule. Specifies what exactly should activate area trigger. In this case we have Dozer and Medic spawn in. We want it so if only Dozer enters the trigger, he will disappear, while the other enemies can go through. Instigator rule and an area trigger have been set to enemies and head pick to only check for Dozers. You can specify a lot of broad definitions with this element. AI remove. Removes enemy that either instigated the element or specific one we mark. Carry. Secures or removes bug. Carry has its own filter for singular loot and will activate unexecuted list when specified bug gets secured. Secured bugs can still be seen by civs and guards, so make it instantly connect to another carry, which will remove the bugs that activated it. Additional reminder. Area trigger only activates once, so change it to 0 or max bugs possible. Unit sequence trigger. Checks if unit is in some state, if yes, triggers what's connected to it. In case there is no clear state, say basic buttons, use interact. Like area trigger, only activates one time by default. Unit sequence. Already went through it, changes unit sequence, like changing color, opening doors, etc. Objectives. Add the classic objective on the top of the UI. You have a ton of them to choose from by default, but you might need something that isn't on the list. To add custom objectives, go into the world menu and choose objectives, and simply add one. AI global event. Mostly used to activate loud from custom conditions, like breaking glass or getting into range. Your focus will be on the hunt and siege rave modes, since the rest either crashes or are leftovers from Payday the Heist, which do not work anymore. Use police code, that way you'll have standard police response. Difficulty. Changes behavior of the assault wave. The higher the number, the more enemies spawn, including ramp-upping specials, shortens controls, etc. Preferably you start at 0.5, like most maps, but you can crank it up to 1 from the get-go. Whisper state must be turned off manually, unfortunately, so connect it to the alarm system and uncheck whisper state. Counter can be used in two ways, either storing numbers or executing after X uses. For the most part I expect you'll use it as the latter, with say counting flags. Counter operator. Logical enough, can add, subtract, set or reset the counter connected. Counter trigger. When counter hits a value of something, it activates, basically a sub-counter for the executing case. Interaction allows for custom interactions with units that do not have one. On its executed list, there is a new drop-down menu, which will activate when you interrupt, finish or start the interaction. Filter and difficulty level check. Both do the same job, although it's recommended to go with filter, since you can check any difficulty at any time, plus 1 down, which is impossible with DLC check. For instant changes of difficulty like Titan cameras, it's recommended to put it on execute on startup. Toggle activates, deactivates or toggles on to off and off to on elements it's connected to. Can be useful in situations like Mayhem Plus changes or objectives from stealth to loud. Global event trigger activates when a certain state of the heist happens, like ECM jammer, assault starts, stops, pager answered, gets in custody, etc. Teammate comment logical enough makes teammate comment. There's tons of random strings that make no sense, but most heisters have their voice lines under G, P, V, P and T. Mission end. Do I even have to explain it? You can make it success, fail, auto-fail from all in custody is in place so no worries, and leave in safe as one. Music. Lets you play any state of current music. No bridging, no intros, or step only because I don't fucking know. Play sound. Lets you play sound. It works to an ID system, so you better pray you hit proper string. Or look it up on Payday 2 Maps website. Pain state. If you want a custom contractor, you can mute Pain. I have no clue if you can replace him with Lock in similar fashion. Enable unit. Makes unit visible and have collision. Disable unit. Makes unit invisible and disables collision. Who would have fucking guessed? Now these two are their ugly cousins. They're unintuitive, buggy mess that half the time doesn't work as expected. Avoid them if possible and use them as last resort. Move unit. Makes unit move to specified location. Anything in its chain reaction will wait until unit finally makes it to the destination, so 0-second delay will mean nothing. Rotate unit. Makes unit rotate to specified angle. Same as last one, 0-second delay means jack. Money. Adds or removes money from your spending or offshore cash. Experience. Add experience to your level. Congratulations! With just these two you've made plus heist obsolete. Just remember that if you want infamy D within hours, some people don't want to, so keep it balanced. Operator. Make some elements remove or add to their status. Mainly used for points of no return. The timer after it reaches 0 you fail, including go loud ID. It's good for this one specifically because if you want, you can now make timed loud sections without insta failing. Just make timer n-1 for operator, so when it reaches 0 it stops. Waypoint. Makes a waypoint. Security camera. Makes camera actually spot you. You need a gen drone camera or gen equipment security camera. Perhaps there is more that work, but this will be most useful. Remember to execute this element so it actually works. Modify player. Allows you to make players invulnerable and take no fall damage. Teleport player. Obvious enough, can change the state. Player state. What player is currently doing? On the scale from J1 to J2, how do you feel today? Most used ones will be mask off, standard, mask up, clean, mask off but can't mask up, civilian, no mask, undetectable, unharmable, can do interactions other than the set ones. Player state trigger, just like unit sequence but for players. Checks what state you're in, then activates something. Set outline, makes enemy or civilian you connected to have an outline. Leave default one in if you want enemy visible, others can disappear after a while. Invulnerable, makes enemy or civilian you connected to invulnerable. Thing is some things you can kill, like cars. Make them immortal, make them truly invincible. Random, anything that is connected to has equal chances of being activated. Good for loot and cameras, although remember that debug also gets triggered by. So many connections go through mission scripts. Logic chance, simple roll for a given percentage. Can be modified by logic chance operator, and if it's A or B, you can connect it to logic chance trigger, making both true and false have some usage. In say, random path shortcut. Whew, that was a lot, and that's just the bare bones knowledge. You might think that, wait, enemy dummy, could I use it to spawn enemies? And you'd be correct, for the most part. However, we need to make them able to move, right? We need to make one thing clear. Diesel is an outdated engine. Minecraft and Terraria use dynamic navigation mesh, if you could even call it that. Left 4 Dead 2 uses semi-dynamic navigation mesh, while Diesel is semi-static navigation mesh user. There are ways to modify it, but most of the time it'll be the same and moving objects are just out of the picture for AI. So don't expect to make some wide drives in the sunset. But PCI helmet has us moving through that shit, that's what we call illusion. We stay in place, entire background is moving, making it look like it's dynamic. It doesn't even make much sense as we're going non-stop straight on train tracks. For now, just remember that everything must be as close to static as possible. With layout looking like this, I think I can show you how to make navigation mesh. In World menu, go to AI section. You will see weird rotating square in spawn of the map. Click quad. Blue means there's navigation mesh. That's place where AI can move, and where you will be thrown if you go out of bounds in single player. We want to expand it, of course. Preferably, we want to make navigation mesh pretty dense, each room being split at least twice. Because it's our example layout, we'll split it into 4 different sections. As you can see, we have 4 different locations. No objects, door frame, trimmed wall, and high ground. Click spawn nav surface and you'll have your own spinning square. Place it in all 4 parts of our minimap. Works, but the game sees some of them as the same room, thus we get navigation leakage, which will confuse AI in the long run. Well, let's split it. In spawn menu, look for nav splitter. There is a lot of them, but you want to use the green ones. Make stuff less confusing in the long run. Just like dev ladder, this is editor unit, so make sure you have them visible. Place one between trimmed wall and door section. When we get to calculating nav mesh, game will separate these 2 rooms. With the high ground we have a second layer. We want AI to be only on top, and leave the inside unreachable. For this, we use nav blocker. Same as last one. Use red one and enable editor units. Place it in the location between the high ground and our no object. Game should hit the wall and understand nothing gets past the wall and that it is the fucking wall. Cool, so we have basics for AI to walk onto. But what about the player? In our case, we don't want them to jump off the ledge of our minimap. So we'll use def collision. Quick note, there's 3 different collisions. Player, vehicle and bug. Be sure to use proper one. They work the same, just for different things. Place it around the arena and we're good to go. Players now cannot jump off the map. That's nice and all, but how do we make AI climb over the trimmed wall or on the high ground? It looks like it's not connected to each other. We can check that. Click course graph and there should be plenty of yellow lines going through squares. Oh right, we didn't calculate navigation mesh. You can quickly calculate selected, those highlighted, doesn't need to be just one, or calculate all. Both require restart of the map after. Done. Now you should see the lines, and the top one is indeed not reachable, and trim wall makes it an invalid target. We'll use something so advanced even professional mappers have trouble to understand. Special objective element. You'll use it plenty, but it deserves its own chapter which will follow. Remember that you can only modify special objective or navigation mesh at a time, otherwise map can crash. So if you've calculated navigation mesh, restart, then mess with special objective. Place special objective, called SO from now on. Need trimmed wall first, because this one will be easier. In access flags preset, click all except Civs. This will make special objective as can be used by anyone but Civs. If you don't know, civilians and cops have 2 different animation sets. And while cops will come back to basic standing pose where they cannot do the action, Civs will crash. So it's best to have them marked SOC for civilians specifically. For now, we'll talk about just navigation, other ones will be explained soon. Because we wanted to help navigate, select navigation link. In the selection, you see metric fuckton of animations. Some by special units, some playable by all, some playable by none. Because we want navigation link, look for NL in the search bar. We've changed metric fuckton to just ton of animations. Pretty sweet if you ask me. Chances are, you still won't find proper ones for your map, so we have to compromise. For our case, we need something that looks good enough for climbing animation. Experimentation is in play. I found a good looking animation be _NL _up _1 meter _down _0. What the fuck am I reading? If you find better, good for you. AI will now use this animation go from one navigation link to another. Given we give one more attribute. In search position we have 2 new icons. Waypoint and magnifying glass. Waypoint resets search location to location of our SO, and glass tries to calculate where animation ends, so it can hop onto the next navigation link. Let's try that. Magnificent. Now, add an enemy dummy in our area, somewhere by the side of our SO, aka here. Let's save and playtest. If you set it up correctly, our cop should make it through to us by itself. In similar fashion, if we put our AI in there, it'll follow like them. If they don't walk through, remember to check if you executed the SO. That might be the reason they don't follow you. They also by default have reserved position, so if one cop is doing it, others wait for it to end. You can mitigate it by making more of the same SO slightly away from each other, or are checking reserved position. Cooldown depends on animation. Well done! We've successfully done AI navigation alongside basic animation. 4 things I also need to add. As you can see, standing in a location without nav mesh makes AI go to the last known nav mesh we've been, so make sure you have it calculated in all common places. Our crew AI will follow you until the end of times unless you force them to use SO. Additionally, If you're out of reach, as in outside of navigation mesh, bots will go to the last known location and pick you up. So if you've been revived plenty of times from range of Mr. Fantastic, expect that to change now. You can, and should, add so-called cover point. This is what game uses to make enemies crouch and take cover in. Or something. Basically lets AI stand somewhere else than middle of the navigation segment. Final one is that you can make special navigation graphs. You can disable unit on AI graph to make it ignore said unit and generate over it. Using AI graph element you can modify if AI is allowed to go through. Select navigation mesh for graph units list and give operation. Custom unfortunately doesn't work as fast as you'd expect. You can't force clockers to use flanks or bulldozers to go through a wall. And those about civilians are from No Mercy Heist after you play start. With just those you can make most navigation easily. As said, you cannot do much of dynamic navigation mesh. So if you plan to make some epic map in which terrain gets trashed, you're pretty much forced to keep steady navigation mesh unless you find a solution I couldn't. But you did make the high ground reachable, correct? You should get a grasp by now to make it yourself. Just remember to make one on top and one on the bottom, so AI can move in both directions. It may sound complicated by the length of this chapter, but I promise you once you get a grasp of it, it'll be one of the easiest. This chapter is going to be split into 3 mini chapters. Enemy spawning and safe spawning, stealth pathing and escorts, special objectives and flip points. Reason is they work together like medic and bulldozer with the help of a taser. Enemies plus civs. To make enemies spawn with the wave, remember to have difficulty set to anything but 0. We need to have spawn enemy dummies. Holy shit, you were right those minutes ago. Preferably, each major section of your map should have 2 to 5 spawn dummies, so it doesn't end up with a horde of 30 deathwish police officers coming up to none the wiser level 9 Dallas. You can name them for convenience, like with most stuff we've done so far, or keep its original name. After we get them in, we'll use spawn enemy group element. Place it, connect it with the dummies we have, and you can modify a lot. What the way they spawn in, order it is the default and probably most used. If it should ignore disabled spawn elements, how many spawns per wave of enemies, not to be confused with assault wave, how often to spawn them, and on what team they spawn in. Yes, you can change team their role. Additionally, you can change what spawns from them, so if you hate marshals, you're so much lucky it's unbelievable. There's also some of them that spawn during the events like Piggy Dozer or the Snow Dozer. I'd suggest to leave them out. Phalanx is a fancy name for Capital Winters if you're wondering. They should have their own spawns if you want to add them. You can leave all of the numbers at 0. It'll spawn the typical assault amount. Cool, so we have a set group. Repeat this process for the rest of locations you want them to spawn in. Game will prioritize the closest spawn to the player, but we still need to add them in some way to the assault wave. We use enemy preferred add. Simply connect group to add element, and after executing it, games will know to use this group in assault. You can check by breaking stealth with AI global element and go into the navigation mesh close to the enemy dummy you've executed. If music changes from control to anticipation, it works correctly. You can remove them with enemy preferred remove, if you need to later. Also, you can change the spawn animations, just as a side note. Now, civilians are a different breed of trouble. From the get-go you can already see there is no model loaded for the civilian. If you click execute or test, it'll crash the game. Choose a model with 3 dots, preferably something that doesn't sound too specific, simply to avoid crashing. Avoid anything with AK in their names. State is their spawn animation, which can be none. Some can also crash the game, so before messing with any civilians or SOs, remember to save. They have a tad bit different naming. Things named CM are for civilian male, CF civilian female, and CMF for both. Simply they're built different, so animations will look clunky on them, if not crash the game. You can spawn plenty of them with spawn civilian group element, but that is probably not needed for your heist, unless you go for Big Bang and Infinite spawns type of thing. Hi, editing me here. How the fuck did I forget to mention? Whisper state only takes effect when you spawn into the map, even if it's executed on startup. Because of this, alarm can be raised even if you are still in pre-planning. To avoid this, make a spawn zone area trigger which spawns civilians and guards after player spawns in. Patrol path and escorts. Patrol paths and escorts are a bit quirky. You see, there technically exists such thing as patrol path, but it's used more for escorts, if even then. What most heists do, in case of vanilla, is make special objectives which give random animation, then randomize next patrol point. So let's give the proper way to do it. See this mini arena, it was made just so you can get the grasp of making it. You can recreate it or use the old one, but that's getting cluttered. We place down enemy dummy and give him a model of security guard. Also one we know has pages. Place one SO. We need to modify /checkmark. Manage access flags, security and security patrol. Align rotation, align position, reserve position. Use instigator, idle scan, AI group, enemies. Path style, destination. Attitude, avoid, interrupt distance, -1. All done? Now duplicate it, Alt plus move it, and place it in a different spot for see randomization. And do it again for the sake of it. We'll use new element, special objective group. Put it down, call it random animation, and throw it somewhere behind the scenes. Or on top, like most Heist stuff. A lot of stuff is hidden in there. And put it into randomizer mode. Place 2 new SOs and modify/check only the following. Manage access flags, security patrol, reserve position, idle scan, AI group enemies, SO action, nearly anything will do. It's random action and you do it on the spot. Path style, destination. Attitude, avoid, interrupt distance, -1. Action duration, min-max. Depends on how long you want them to stay. Norm is 5 to 10 seconds and if possible make them the same all over the board. Time moving between them doesn't count to it. Now, things will get a bit messy, so listen. The first 3 SOs with put must connect the random animation SO group, aka follow-ups, spacebar plus click, and SOG has to have follow-up to the random 2 animations with put. Now we make a new SO group called back to path. Again, names here are for making it easier to learn. We connect those 2 animations as a follow-up to the back to path. Confused yet? Me too. But hey, it works, as long as we execute the grad making instigator. Manage on execute list, back to path. He should be now moving around. Oh, by the way, this is normal guard. He has detection. You can use this blocker to make them not see something in front of them. Can help if there's area I want to be invisible, like hacked laptops or market station trade. Escorts are easier and harder in some ways. On one hand, you don't need nothing fancy, just set up a soul path. On the other, it's way easier to fuck it up. It won't crash the game, but you sure wish it did so you can give up. There's 2 ways to do it, with civilians or with enemies. We'll do with civilians first since that's what most, if not all escorts in vanilla do. Civilians require patrol paths. You could technically go without them, but it'd be too much waste of the time. Go into towards the main AI section once again, this time look for patrol paths and create one. Name should be, like most of the stuff, self-explanatory. So let's do test escort. Select your path and under it there should be patrol points and place them where you want your escort to go. This overrides navigation mesh so they can go through walls or even float in air. Just be mindful of that. We make spawn civilian dummy and select our model, which must be compatible with emissions, so pretty much anything in vanilla that is an escort will work for the most part. Rest is up to luck or tinkering. Hold that thought! Before we do anything else, we need to introduce you to package system. Payday operates on database/package system. Database is taking singular thing from the shelf, while package is taking entire package because it's included in it. In spawn menu, we've used database system. However, some things like dialogue and models require packages to be loaded. This takes up way more memory because instead of singular unit, we take part of the existing heist and attach it to our map. Thankfully, it's mostly not needed so we shouldn't get out of memory. But in this case it's necessary. Say you want our escort to be map from history. In world menu, under load with packages, look for map. You should see NPC map show up. Click it and the editor will show you the smallest possible package first. Now you should be able to use mat as an escort. If you manage to load them without getting the package loaded, that's great. Just expect that it might cause issues. With that out of the way, place SO next to the CV. In SO we need checked Civ male and Civ female. Obviously depends on our model. Align position, idle scan, SO action, AI escort. Patrol path, one we've just made. Path style, course. Path haste, walk. Integer everything is set to 0, other than interval -1 and base chance 1. Our spawn dummy is going to be mat. This fucking string, I am not saying that shit loud. Try to make it the final objective, if possible, to save yourself headache of messing stuff with like open doors or clear the path. Civilians unfortunately will always be alerted no matter what team they are on. So escorts only in loud, and use SOs as a default movement in stealth. When civilians finish going through their patrol path, it's considered done and will activate follow-up SO. Enemies make it way easier though. They cannot be moved unless alerted, so again, stealth escorts are out of the window, unless you despawn them later out of bounds with AR remove. They additionally won't be bothered by presence of enemies like Civs do, so if you really want your escorts to stop, you're kinda out of luck unless you mess with additional elements. Because those are enemies, they have more animations, thus make it way more fun. For starters, you can skip making patrol paths since they won't use it anyways. What we did instead is plenty of SOs. First, set up one properly. Access flag, all but Civs, align position, forced, so they won't simply be interested in something else and leave the path. Idle scan, SO action, AI escort, path style, precise, path haste, whatever you'd like. Path stance, either host for hostile or CBT for combat, since you need them alerted to yell at them. pose can be any: attitude, avoid, trigger on, interact, which means yelling. Place them in checkpoints, where you want the stops to be, and connect them as follow-ups. Our goal is the chair, but we'll use animation from enemy to jump over this edge. Within SOs, we also need someone to activate them, so place enemy dummy. Now, important thing, make him invincible, or on criminal 1 team, so you can't accidentally shoot him in the middle of the heist, although that could be a fun way for alternative objective. And to add, make him an instigator for SOs. Select SO and spacebar plus click on enemy dummy to lock him in as first instigator, simply so he will be guaranteed to do the actions. That's good start. However, we also need the starter, since if you try to activate from checkpoint 1, AI wouldn't move. Place SO and give it the following: align position, reserve position, forced, idle scan, SO action AI escort, path style, precise, path stance host/CBT, attitude, avoid, interaction voice, escort go. With that, make the first checkpoint as a follow-up of this one. AI should move smoothly. Well, as smoothly as spam of SO goes. Reminder that static specials will prioritize being marked over shouted at, so you can't escort dozer this way. But there's better way to do this. Yeah, I know, Mr. I've mapped for past 5 years and know what most stuff does. You could point out if something is inaccurate and laugh. Or you could leave a comment why it's inaccurate/wrong and help others. SO and flip points. That was bad, wasn't it? Well, it can get worse. Special objectives are all kinds of trouble, no matter what you use them for. Access flag preset is, as already shown, what makes game know which team or model should use the SO. Reminder once more, Civs and Cops have separate animations, and for most SOs you will have to use all except Civs. There's also manage access flags, which lets you manually say that only dozers and cloakers can do this animation. Manage follow-up list is what we've already done for escorts and patrol paths. After they finish the animation, what should be the next action? Manage spawn instigator ID list is which actor should do the animation. This is useful if you want to make custom character walk, similar to Lock in Hell's Island. Test unit can be kept to default, unless you really want to see how animation looks for something like Medi. Holy shit, with this tempo I never managed to get this video released. Search position was already explained. Let you put AI into other navigation segment after finished animation, but it should stay in the same spot as SO if it's not navigation link. Remember that glass makes it look for any animation, while waypoint centers its SO location. We've already managed to have lines and reserve position explained. Repeatable is to do. Thanks to Rex. Honestly, I haven't seen any differences with it on or off, so I guess for now it's useless. Use instigator is what you want to combo with our instigator ID we've set up earlier. Or you can do it if enemy gets on area trigger and it will do the action instead of random NPC. First is forced the action. Just remember that this will make some unexpected behavior, like tight civilians getting up and moving. No arrest. I think it makes police unable to arrest you as in curfew. I can't tell. Allow self follow-up sounds like it allows the random chance of follow-up SO to be itself. But the beauty of random chance is that you never know if you lucky shit or it doesn't work. What interrupt objectives on disable do is makes actors stop animation when SO is toggled to off, for something like loud turning off stealth paths. Finally, the meat and potatoes. All the previous stuff can be ignored if you just want animations, other than flags. AI group is to check which instigator activated it. For the most part you won't really use it. SO action is the animation. Anything with E means it's for cops, CM for male, CF for female, CMF for both civilians. This is what you'll use for the most part. There is special behavior like AI phalanx, location where winters will go to, with center of SO being location of captain. AI sniper, location where everyone becomes sniper. Okay, in reality what it does is activates their laser sight if they have one. Their damage stays the same, it's built-in number for unit. AI escort, we've already seen the use case for this one. AI hunt, AI search and AI defense. All of them apparently change behavior to AI hunt, which forces enemy seek and annihilate heisters, looking for the closest one. Simply they follow you. AI security, leftover scrap which doesn't work. I know, a bit anticlimactic, but if you need a laser sight, there you go. Patrol path was already explained in the escort section. Path style makes them go into the location of SO in some specific way. Destination, as long as you get there. Precise, don't get too off the path. Course is used in escorting, from what I get, and warp is a teleport. Path phase is logical, either walk or run. Path stance, how does the enemy pose? In none, they don't get their stance overridden. In NTL, neutral, they lose aggro. In other words, they need time like in stealth to spot the target in loud. In host and CBT, they can alert it. However, I do not see a difference between these two. Editor me here, again. There is a difference, but it's minimal. In hostile, they have weapon out and will look for closest heister before firing. while in combat their finger is already on the trigger and will shoot on sight. So in most cases it doesn't matter. Pose is obvious enough. Either stand, crouch or keep previous stance. Attitude is outdated behind. Do you remember how meta to do safe outsnapper was to not look at the dozers? Recently it worked because avoid made enemies avoid you unless you were in range of them or looking at them. Like actual threat stuff. Now it, alongside engage, have the same function of just throwing themselves at you. At least allegedly, that worked. I do not know why original message was removed after 2 months, but I do remember it existed. If that is not the reason, I am spreading misinformation on purpose. Trigger on is none.
Just do it!
Or on interact, which we've already used in Escort. Interaction voice is obvious enough as long as you put interact in previous selection. Finally! Numbers! I love math! When executed, AI that is instigator and is on the flag list will attempt to do the action. Navigation links do not require this since AI will try to get to you anyways. However, for things like switches and cloakers, hiding is good to have so you can automate it. In case, animation for cloakers are called ASO hide. Interrupt distance is what is used to make them stop animation if player or bot is too close. Original size is way too small to actually matter, so for things like hiding cloakers make it bigger. Interrupt damage. If you've got hit during the animation and got less than X of full HP, stop. Interval is for self-sustaining SOs, like cloakers or cops for the start action. It will check for it once within such distance by default. It should be never if you do not change anything. Base chance and chance incremental will do a role for actor to do the SO, and if it fails, add X to the base chance until it does hit, then reset. Action duration min and max. This is more for animations that have loops or patrols, but you're free to test out you can speed up or extend the animations. By default 0 ignores time and it finishes animation at last frame. There's also SO groups, which are used in patrol sections, alongside SO triggers. Select SOT and then space click SO you want. And now if it completes, fails, starts or gets administered, someone has been decided to be the actor, whether they started an animation or are even close doesn't matter. It will do something. Oh, and there's 3 points where police and civilians run to and disappear after execution. Mostly for startup doing going loud, or as a drop-off point for cops to see bugs. See? Easy! Optimization sounds like something simple, something a child could do. But no. No. Let me tell you that if you don't know what you're doing, you'll have trouble. First off, the hard-coded limit. Payday 2 is 32-bit, meaning that it cannot go further than 4 GB of RAM used, or it'll crash. So Heist needs to be already within this limit. For the most part, you'll be good even without optimizing this requirement, since it comes closer from too many mods or way too many units and logic at once. In fact, Payday 2 could be 64-bit according to the sidetrack games people, but it breaks so many mods or even outdated mechanics that it's simply not viable. It's not a free month game. This game is from PS3 and Xbox 360 era. It has too much to lose for that upgrade. They are looking into it in the future though. Now the soft limits. Well, soft as in avoidable. Too many packages loaded. As said, some things need packages to work or roll properly. However, they load chunks of existing level. Remember to take the smallest packages when possible to avoid problems. Too many loaded units. In Workbench, you can see Manage Assets. When you click it, you'll see a tab which has plenty of yellow names. Now don't worry, it's not a big warning sign. Well, it kind of is. Yellow means assets are loaded but go unused. Game will force load them, but since they're nowhere to be in the map, they just clog up memory. Lack of background color means it's working properly and is in use. There's also green and red, but it'll come in the next chapter. Simply click Unload Unused Assets and give it your time to get them unloaded. Remember to save. Done. Looking too far ahead. I appreciate your attempt at making the most realistic city ever, but limit your scope. If player doesn't get height advantage, there's no point modeling things from above. Similarly, why bother making an entire hit street if entire heist takes place in one store? Limit playable area to what you want and work from there what is visible and what isn't. What isn't visible simply can be deleted. Too many visible units. Units have a bounding box, which will check if you're looking at it and will unload the unit if it's not present on the screen. It works relatively well, but it only works on if on-screen logic. So everything that is behind the unit is still loaded, even if you can't see it through the walls. There's 2 ways to make it lighter: occluders and portals. Occluders are another editor unit wall, which is presented by white color. Anything that you quote-unquote see through occluder simply unloads until you get away from it. Preferably, you place it in between walls, given you have a space between them. If you don't, it'll get tricky to unload what's not seen. See, some bounding boxes go too far or too close to what you'd expect. Also, they sometimes break, so if you want to move one, you need to save and reload the map to properly see the fixed version. But what if we can get the occluder in location because of geometry? Portals are solution. In world menu, there's portals section. Add one and you'll get a huge block visible. When you, yes, specifically you, get into that cube, portal will activate and do a bit of magic. Anything you add into its units will be kept visible, and once you leave, things will slowly vanish until you get into the portal again. It is more annoying to set up since every angle matters, but it helps a lot in the long run. Now logically, if you make a very small map, unless you put 50 paydillion units, you can easily ignore this optimization, since the map will run relatively smooth. If you can steadily hit 60 FPS, you're fine. Too high quality assets. This unfortunately cannot be easily fixed. See, like most games, Payday has level of detail for units, where the closer you get, the better quality textures and models are. If you play on the highest graphical settings, game needs to load all assets in all qualities and switch them on the spot. If the map is too complicated unit-wise, it'll simply have no RAM left to render better looking assets, and will crash. Best thing to do is to avoid tons of units in 8K quality. Okay, 720p. Put tons of portals slash occluders, or in the most desperate cases, like some other maps, ask to play on medium quality settings. There's no shame in that, other mappers had to ask for that as well. If I manage to do it, an update to the game should be around the corner, which from Leon's swords will help with the memory issues. From what I remember about the talk, game for some reason duplicates files into memory. Not every single one, just some. So some textures get duplicated and now are worth twice the RAM usage even though you'll only see once. The patch should fix that and make memory limits easier to manage. They fucking did it again. Good. Now with those out of the way, we can get to check the map. Damn it! Okay, don't panic, a lot of crashes are salvageable, chances are you've got one of these. First off, what crashed our game? We cannot see this in game itself. Hey, post update to me here. Yes you can, now a game will show you crash.txt after a crash. All the navigation is still applicable though. So time to use File Explorer. Go into your accounts folder, see users, your name, and go into App Data. If you've never modded Minecraft, you don't have hidden folders visible. View, show hidden files. Go into App Data, Local, Payday 2, and open crash.txt. On Linux it's relatively the same, given you use Proton version. Remember, official Linux builds were abandoned. Go to your installation folder and backtrack until you get to Steam Apps. From there go to Compat Data, Payday's ID, PFX, Drive C, and from there it will be similar to Windows. Also a small tip, in launch options you can put -QA to get a live view of the RAM you're using, which can be helpful as a whole. If it says OOM, it's short for out of memory, in which case we need to optimize the map outside of the game. Go into Payday's installation folder, maps, your map and its level, and you should see add.xml. Here are most, if not all, assets that we have loaded by you. As Sush said, you can nuke nearly the entire file as long as you keep those two lines. Save the file and load back into the game. If you're still out of memory, lower the quality settings. Maybe the game just can't handle epicness of your map. And if that fails, well, you've managed to run out of memory on lowest textures possible. Your map has to be the size of Australia or something. Accidentally, previous instructions can also fix a broken unit, given there is one. To check it, go into save mode and load the map. And you'll see nothing. This is to stop you from crashing. Check the assets tab again and look for red background. You have two options, loading the unit through database or package, or remove it, save and load it to normal mode. This has a chance to delete unit as a whole from the map, so be mentally prepared that some elements need to be reworked again if you go with that approach. This sadly does not have a simple explanation as out of memory in crash logs, so it's half guessing game. You can however minimize the guessing game. In mods folder, create developer.txt, and now when you launch Payday 2, there should be a console log. Let the game load, and after you load in, go into levels, log spawned units, then load into your map. Put console log above the Payday and look for the newest unit loaded. This is probably the issue unit, so you can remove just this one add instead of entire file. And as a side note, you can mark as used units in red or yellow, which will be used but simply are broken or not yet in the map. The game will not flash those away. And I also have to add, sometimes game won't mark them in red if they're broken in safe mode, so this might be your only option to know what the issue is. If you can load it to the map but playtesting random crashes after some element, is probably the issue. First of all, manually check all the elements placed that are meant to activate. Sometimes they can be faulty and not show it. If it spawns civilian or enemy or SO, reselect the model or action you want to use and save. If that doesn't work, try to load the package with a model and reselect it once more. If it still crashes, Maybe entire model is meant to do an animation that is simply not in its database. So change what they're meant to do. If it all fails, try to change the model to something else, or, unfortunately, scratch the idea if you don't want to bother. There's possibility you made a loop between elements by accident or purpose and forgot to add delay. Your crash.txt will look like this ad infinitum. Simply add the delay of any sorts and you'll be fine. The game crashes after you've chosen unit from the list. Try this unit again after you get back here. Some units are broken even with packages, so best thing to do is take note. Oh, cache units, as in drills and vaults from Cryfest 2015, crash the game. If by any chance your crash log says Core Music Manager, simply restart Payday 2. According to mappers and maintainers, it kinda just happens. It's not your fault and there's no real fix. It shows up then disappears. Something broke randomly? Think. There must be a reason. Most of the time. Did you do something tired or right before closing the game to test next day? That might be the reason why you suddenly crash. If you remember what you've done, revert it and check if it was the reason it crashes. These are what I'd guess be the easiest things to accidentally manage to crash with. Remember that in the case of modifying files outside of the game, XML is pretty expandable, but is sensitive to basic mistakes like typos and forgetting singular characters like backslash. It has no quote-unquote recovery, so if you fuck up, it hard crashes the game. And hopefully crash log is nice enough to give you the proper reason that I don't fucking know, just guess. See, normally I'd say that if you have any questions, join the Payday Maps Discord server, however because life, governments, and AI is stupid, Discord is now trying to force AI age verification in March. So honestly, I have no clue where you could go when that gets into the effect, and as a normal human being should, care for your privacy. Why the fuck should I show my face or even my no-no document with secret numbers to a third party? Or other purposes. Now it's a guy of a service who chances are is located in China on unregulated markets, so TOS of Discord doesn't apply to them, and thus they can simply take it, use AI on it, and add it to the database and sell it to whoever. God, I hate this timeline. In case, check for updates in BLE GitHub and look if they update the Discord link to something else. If not, check if there's an issue, open or closed or pinned, about the way to talk with people. But with that out of the way, let's go back to making those harder tasks. With all this basic knowledge, you can do pretty much anything you want. However, you need to know that map is fun. I'm not your dad, but I'll give you some very basic, ignorable advice. You ever went to the mod workshop and saw a cool heist and after like 10 minutes you open the vault and see this shit?
I almost can't believe we did it! Fuck! Oh, fuck! What do we do now? Bane? Oh, shit.
This is called Plus Plus Heist. And as the name suggests, this is literally the same heist, but with more loot and money. We already saw you can add XP and money with elements. Why in the ever-loving fuck would you think, he's carrying 99 money bucks is fun? If you're going to make a change in the heist from vanilla, make it a remix of some kind. Change objectives here and there, give it a different narrative, something than just adding bucks and calling it a day. Point of no return can add intensity to the heist. You can use it right. It's best however to keep it balanced. If you have point of no return, you need to make a choice for harder difficulties. Does map get more complicated from Mayhem Plus, or is the timer just shorter? Doing both can be problematic if you put RNG, which can mess crew over. Additionally, make them special event. Detected in can be fun, given it's not a fail. Remember, operator element can stop PONRs, and in certain cases is fully logical, not in transit train escaping or the rig exploding. However, don't make it a hard cap timer. If you make it a heist only 40 minutes long, there better be some proper explanation why there's this long timer, because this stresses out player that they need to keep up the pace throughout the entire mission rather than a shorter segment. Optimization is key. If your heist is small, it doesn't need 50 portals and 100 occluders. Though you cannot just make it barely playable with 3 FPS and call it a day. Some dips in here and there are expected, but constant low FPS can make your map just annoying to play. If it is a big map, remember to use portals and occluders as well as you can. Enemy spawn is non-fun. Even if you set up elements properly, game will make spawns work by itself. You can absolutely add some random chests or special spawns like doors or traps, but attempt to make it not pure clusterfuck in which you can't even sit in place of God mode because there's so many cops. Let players have tiny bit of breathing room. Speech is silver, silence is golden, time is platinum. Or something. Value players' time. You can have a huge idea for the heist and that's okay, but don't overextend it. On average, 30 back cook-off takes around 100 minutes. That's over 1.5 hours. But probably unlike that map, yours can't just end any time. Would you enjoy to play a 1.5 hour map if you're employed? Hell, even if you don't have a job, imagine a crash after an hour. Failing is painful by itself, but if you literally don't have the time to finish the heist, without any warnings how long it takes, or game crashes, there will be sour aftertaste from losing this much progress. With all that said, try to limit the heist to around 30 minutes, or if you feel risky, up to an hour. Chances are people won't play this map because it's not cook-off. Make objectives fun by masking them. That's it. Drills are obvious timers in the game pretty much in every map. But there has to be a limit on their use. If out of 10 objectives 6 of them are drilling, you'll get bored. Spice it up a bit, hide them. Doors to be drilled through? Give randomization. Drill, waiting for C4, someone from inside goes for them, something. Kill to progress? Don't force a damage sponge. Make a heli fall on him, push him down with a car into a pit, tag him for police or other creative solution. Of course, you won't always be able to mask them, but the more you do it, the more it helps. Difficulty has to be a player's choice. You did not choose to play an overkill to get annihilated by 30 minigun losers. You can add random chances which increase or become guaranteed over difficulty, no issue with that. But don't create custom difficulty which makes Heist unplayable. I hate DS and DSOD, even if it's a skill issue. But making objectives straight up impossible is a dick move. Take a look on some fun heists and steal their ideas, giving your twist on them. Everyone needs inspiration from somewhere. Skyscraper heist, buy the next horizon is pretty fun. You get into skyscraper to mess with Gensex security and rob them in their own building. Do you notice any proper timers? No? That's because most objectives are active, requiring you to do something. There's two sections which is passive, and getting into the goodies, where you can speed it up no matter what, other than real skills. Not everything needs to be active, but don't make everything an avoidable timer, waiting for it to go down. God, I'm getting sleepy. Well lads, this is getting close to proper map. There's few things we need to take care of before we can call it complete though. You can, but it will lose quality a bit. Decorations. Tell me, when was the last time you went to any room and seen straight up nothing on anything? Shelves empty, desks empty, lounges empty, everything is empty. If it's open space, probably never. There always would be something lying around. So get placing what you think is appropriate. A phone there, notebook there, clock on the wall, cups, you know, basics. Brushes. Those are decorations but better. They're simply 2D/3D models which work like brush tool in graphic program does. Just hold left click and draw. They take way less space than actual units and can be used as a touch-up of decoration. Pretty classy and nice to the eye. To remove it, simply drive over them with right click. Asset triggers. Most of the heist sell assets, which you buy out of habit, and pre-planning, but for the sake of it being your first map, we'll stick to the assets. Asset trigger is pretty simple. It'll check for our bot assets, and if it was bot, it'll send execution to connected element. For basics like back and ammo, it should link to spawn deployable element. With corresponding selection. If it's something like ladder, if the thing was bought, just put unit sequence on the ladder or enable unit. To add the option to assets, go to projects, edit, and in level choose manage mission assets. Simple as. Playtest. Break your map's kneecaps. Check every RNG option. Make it suffer. The more you make it cry, the better results you get, since it can be fixed. Try to avoid softlocks or exploit like instant completions or throwing out crucial loot bugs.
The fuck?
There will be plenty of them, but it's better to cast under your nose and fix it within 5 minutes than players getting stuck 20 minutes in. Sound effects. Let's be real, no one in their sane mind plays Payday because it's beautiful. No one will notice that there's no sound effect from trees or bushes, but I can add some realism. In world main selection, there's sound tab. Go into it and you'll see few options. Sound emitter is going to be probably most used. It generates a small radius from which you can hear the noise, and there's plenty of them. Additionally, sound environment is a huge cube that changes what ambient noises play in what area, so you can go outside to inside and a humming of interior starts. There's tons of options within it, so just check what sounds the best for what location. A lot of units have built-in noise, so keep that in mind. Effects. Elements called play effect and stop effect logically play or stop effect. What are effects? Particles. Fire, electricity, smoke, etc. They are good if your unit does something it doesn't normally. Crashing against a wall, go through fire hydrant, etc. It can add some realism. Alongside that, a bit of environment change can help. In the back options there's environment. Simply change values to see what fits and save them with some name. Now remember to click include current and name it how you want. It would be the best to call it the same. In world main environment, select one we've just made. In case you have a snow or rain effect, make the same environment with these two unchecked, and in world main environment, add environment area, and select our no effects environment for quick switching. Want to change scenery as a whole? Using environment operator element, simply look for your setting, save and restart. During the game it should change to your grading color. In case you want a different background, change sky map to what sounds good. If it crashes, try to load the sky map first with a package. Mix it with area triggers and voila. Now ambient lighting changes depending on your location with environment area for client, and changes entire settings with environment operator for everyone. Some effects unfortunately are not 100% perfectly synced, so rain can just not give droplets on the floor. Be mindful of that happening sometimes. If you plan to have only one environment, just go into World's Main Environment tab and select your saved one. Also, environment is cool, but don't overtune settings. Like, I am literally unable to see environment settings. Lights are in the game if you have such environments though. There's few types: Spotlight and Omni, and fall-off versions of those lights. They are slightly wonky to use, but they can definitely help if your level is too dark for its own good. Also, while you're at it, some objectives don't sync too well in multiplayer for some reason, so remember to get your heisting buddy and check them up together. Drop in state element lets you control when someone can join mid-heist, but that's quite a reach to think someone will join your heist mid-game since it's not in vanilla. A possible fix might be using load true alongside network sync spawn in add XML of the map. Find the issue unit by name and add those arguments. With adding those strings, final part should look like this. Just a reminder, there's an upper limit to synchronizing things, meaning that this should be used sparingly. If that doesn't work, I'm afraid you'd have to reorg the objective for multiplayer. Additionally, turn off all your bots boosts, as in specifically quick one, since this makes interactions go up to 75% faster, making some interactions just break. Additionally, some things play out differently when playtesting and playing the contract. It is very tiresome and sometimes unavoidable, especially that you need to check this here and this there, so try to find workarounds for main objectives being broken and let bugs stay if they're non-obtrusive, like seconds Sosa just trash talking you. Alright, I'd say that's it. We're ready to publish. Heist is technically playable, get ready to make history. Well, this is it. It's our time to shine. As with most games, you need to verify it's playable on the hardest difficult. Wait, hold on, so remember to get your heisting buddy and check them up together. Oh, you can just publish this, just like that. Wow, that's cool. So be happy, you've done a map by yourself. You can share it in Mod Workshop after you log in, put details in like name, description no one will read, limit this for, tags, visibility, most importantly zip to map project, images, dependencies like Superability and BeardLib, and finally license, given you've used assets that don't link to you or aren't in the game. Remember to follow the rules, it is their site so you have to play by them. In short, for the sake of mapping, no hate speech of any kind, don't harass anyone, especially with witch hunt. Don't post non-safe for work stuff. Spam bank heist is of the many. Damn. Thankfully 1x definitely ours is still a thing. If you mess with environments, try to not make a seizure first. Treat everyone equally. Don't upload malware. Again, if you don't have a license for something, find an alternative. Chances are this won't matter if your project is only made with in-game assets. Make name, description and tags make sense so it won't randomly pop up when searching for their stuff. Don't make false updates for sake of bumping onto the top, and don't use anything from Disney on Nintendo. Those would be most important ones you should know. This list is even longer, but if you're making the first custom heist, those are ones that are important. In case you want to send it to Nexus Mod, fine. Just know they have different rules and currently links to the website can get you banned on Discord. And we're done! Map is finally out to people. What, I missed something? Oh right! There's still things you might want to do, but those are outside of editor. Look, if you published the map already, that's on you for not watching the entire tutorial, considering you have one chapter left. So without further ado, let's get to stuff in our game files. First off, our heist is stealthable, and yet there's no stealth icon. This one is easy. Go to your projects folder and open main XML. In level you should see a lot of bullshit, and that will only expand with next things. For now it's basic. Simply add ghost bonus, value, and you're done. If the map is stealth only, then you also need ghost required true to show up in proper category. Objectives are called error, kill boss. What are we meant to do about it? We need localization. This makes game understand that you want the ID kill boss be replaced with text going as follows. We get inside log folder this time and english.txt, which in fact is .json, and write down our ID. Here kill boss, and after the colon in quotation marks what we want it replaced with. Now do it for every other string that you think is not localized and you're done. Use \n to make a new line if you need it, makes your text better. Although, if you want to get fancy, there's a way to make it more professional. Change ending of the file to .yaml, and now you're using YAML language. Don't worry, we're not coding Payday 4 here, it's as simple as replacement in JSON. Write down kill boss, text, and you're golden. Same rule applies. Use \n to make a new line within the same text. Just remember to change our localization in main XML from TXT to YAML. If you're Mr. Worldwide and know at least 2 languages, you can make a version for your national one, or for a 3rd one, or 4th one. Let's be real, no one plays this game in anything but English. But options still exist. In localization, add language and name it like supported language in Payday. There's no point in making it Finnish if it's not supported by the game, being unselectable. Cool, save changes and come back to our localization folder. Copy our preferably finished english.txt/.yaml and simply name it to our new language and translate all the stuff. You might need to restart the game after that though. Contractor needs a voice, of course. Why would we otherwise make him? This is where we need to mess more with main XML. First off, we need some voice lines. So go into any voice recording software and make a voice line. Then save it as an OGG. Why OGG and not MP3 or WAV? Because they're not supported. Payday 2 uses X-Audio, which is not only pain in the ass but also compresses it to shit.
The ship by the docks belongs to the butcher. Locke sold her out too. Give them a hand and maybe they'll give you a ride. Locke sold the butcher out too. The ship by the docks is one of hers. Go help him out and maybe we can hitch a boat ride.
From what I get, Raid Warrior 2 is using WIs, which is way better, but the last diesel version of Payday 2 is so outdated you can't easily port it. In case of being wrong, refer to 4022. Get into any voice recording program like Tenacity or Audacity and record voice lines you have in mind. Assaulting 30. Diesel has that bit annoying quirk where if your sound is mono, as in one path just like you're recording your voice, it plays 3D environment, while in stereo, 2 paths, one for the left ear and one for the right ear, gets it to be in your head, like Contractor. So in our case, we want it to be stereo, so duplicate the voice line and merge the paths together. Assaulting 20. Assaulting 20. We now have stereo, even if it's exactly the same. Export it as OGG and we have a voice line. In our maps folder, replace it pretty much anywhere. So throw it into assets/sounds or VO. No folders like that, just create them. Throw audio in there, name it, and now into the main XML in it look for a suitable location. Where that is, it doesn't matter as long as it's not in between elements and under levels tag. For the sake of not confusing them with in-game elements, I'll reference to them with tag from now on. So log sounds/log is invalid and will result in syntax error. After you find the break between 2 tags, create sounds directory assets/sounds or sounds directory VO, depending where you place them. Now do a cat in and write sound id test audio path saved file.ogg. Final structure should look like this. Reminder, XML is case sensitive in few spots and in case of fatal typo might crash the game. So make sure you've got everything right and everything is quotation marks and you close singular tags properly with slash. You want more sounds? Just copy and paste the sound ID subtag and change ID and path. Or you want to have a text alongside the noise? In that case add subtitle ID test audio text in the subtag. It works, but it shows error. Alright, we came here for call, grab some and kill it. Damn, if we only had a way to get rid of localization errors. And of course it doesn't have to be our Contractor, it can be any sound. Now, reason why we've put this tag inside of level is because the sound package is local, meaning no other map but this one can use these voice lines. Even if you wouldn't have an issue to be someone else's dependency, and you shouldn't be one, this adds all of the sounds into global package, meaning that every single time you load into anything, game will now add those into memory, which as we know is pretty limited. For this to be an issue, you need to have enough voice lines to not be able to even load it to your own map. But with every single external voice line, you add few milliseconds loading them at every opportunity, and those milliseconds can add up fast. Now imagine if others do exactly the same as you. Now from seconds you wait minutes and have higher chances of running out of memory. However, as much as I'm warning you about this, we still need voice lines for briefings. They need to be global to actually hear them in CrimeNet before we load it to the heist. So outside of our level tag, add a new sound tag and in it write only few of these. Those will be callouts, hovering over the icon in CrimeNet, and briefing. You can randomize voice lines using random tag and writing previously loaded IDs in it. Final structure should look like this for global sounds and this for local. With all that done, go to BeardLib project and add IDs from south tags in, save and restart. After the restart, you should be able to hear them. Do you want to go further around a volcano? I have a proposition. Somehow on an active volcano island full of corrupt police and drug cartel operations, the biggest sin is there's no sun. Somehow on an active volcano, this message is approximately 1 in 4 chance of playing. Drugs, volcano, island, what more would you want? We have voiceover for our Contractor, but we don't have Contractor on the list, only in custom section. Let's make them a config paste in CrimeNet. All it takes is a tag which is conveniently located in the wiki for mod workshop. Go to the link and steal this tag. It's self-closing tag, so don't put it in between others, preferably in the same dense size as localization. Now change the name and description and ID to something unique, like all the other things. Localize them in our English TXT and they should be a valid Contractor. In narrative of the heist, editor or XML, change contact to our ID. This is also the part of a contract database, but let's be real. When was the last time you've checked that place? Our map needs some thumbnail to look interesting in the CrimeNet. Open up any semi-advanced image editor, meaning not Paint, like GIMP, Photoshop or Photopea, and get ourselves a screenshot of the map, or any image. Paste it in and add any filter you want. By default what you see is what you get in contracts, so the blue effect you need to add yourself. After you finish, we need to export it. Fancy PNG, JPEG, maybe AVIF, or GIF. No. .texture. Yeah, you probably haven't heard that one. Even if editor says you can use PNG for icon, I suggest against it, since stuff like achievements won't work in PNG. Export it as .dds and if possible, use option BC3 or BXT5. As long as you can export them in the state, you're fine. Now copy the exported file and place it in our assets folder of the map, and change its file extension, view file extensions if you don't see them, into .texture. Confirm the extension change and restart Payday 2. Select our project in edit, then in narrative click change icon and look for our .texture. Do the same preferably for the loading to the heist icon and save changes. After reload of the folder, restart of the game or playing the heist in Living, our contract should have a thumbnail. Do you have custom music for the heist? Add it! Just like with previous one, we need to make a new tag. Heist music directory assets whatever, ID, name of the song internally. Volume from 1 to 0.1, /heist music. Game should register that we have a track we want to add to the jukebox, but it doesn't know which one and when, so add the tags in between. Event name setup, source stealth loop, start source, stealth intro, and do the same for the control, anticipation and assault. If done right, game should show it in jukebox and let us play it. Logically it will have trouble with localization. This is why it was mentioned nearly first. And now we get to the making Payday 3 section of the tutorial. Completely custom things. There are two ways to do it. With hooks or using BeardLib's modules. Hooks are self-explanatory from the name. They attach themselves to the game and the game treats them as real in-game information, but has no problems when they get attached during uninstalling the map. BeardLib's modules are simplified versions which don't need external files to work with. Just copy paste stuff and change your things, and we'll try to stick with those, which you should realize we've been using for our sound, music and Contractor already. From here on out, there's proper text tutorials on Payday Maps website. And trust me, this is customizable as fuck. I'm only covering the pure basics, but you're free to experiment with stuff that we didn't touch in those tutorials. Lost with modules? Check out this manual. Should help explain a bit more. This part is separated into interactions, loot bags and points of no return. They do not require much to be added, but chances are you would add them. So let's start. Interactions are easiest of the bunch. All we need to do is go into our main XML and in levels tag add interactions tag. Within it, a subtag of interaction ID, unique ID, interact distance in centimeters, and final thing should look like this. Want more interactions? Just copy and paste interaction tag like we've done with sounds. So what do we want to do with it? ID, as usual, has to be unique, so come up with something. Interact distance is what name suggests, how far you are allowed to be to start interaction. Remember, it's centimeters, not meters. That's it. This pretty much makes the entire interaction work. Add localization and you have a working interaction. Use $BTN_interact to get player's interaction button. Not everyone has it on F, and if you want to make it a hold to interact like most interactions, just add timer, time in parameters and time in seconds.
2:30.
Loot bags. Just as simple. Place loot bags inside the level stack and inside them carry ID unique, type weight of the bag, visual unit name, if you want a custom bag color, name ID, name of the bag. Final structure should look like this, given you've added interactions. Pretty easy, right? So ID is obvious, something unique for a heist. Type is the weight of the bag. Can be coke light, light, medium, slightly heavy, heavy, very heavy, and few miscellaneous. Visual unit name has few options from the get-go if you want something that's in the default bag, and name ID is the thingy that shows up when you have carrying in HUD. Point of no return. This is where we get into the fancy trick data stuff. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. No one wants to write this stuff down. Just copy the link and do as it said. Copy the hook tag, then create folder hook with tweak data Payday to Lua in it, and in it copy the whole shebang happening in Lua. Change custom PONR to your ID, and your PONR ID here into the same ID. Done. Now save both files. Now in point of no return element you should have custom PONR. Remember to add localization, as usual. Let's get back to our music for a second. We have it already implemented, but we want it to be a default one. Once again, we add a hook, this time called musicmanager.lua, and in hooks folder, write down this lua. Save and you should have your custom music as default one. In case you do not want custom music but built-in one, you could use string ID revealer mod. But I wouldn't want to download extra mod for that either, so here you go. Custom achievements. This game wouldn't be the same if you didn't get dopamine hit every few minutes for doing most random things imaginable. So from what I get, there's no proper template available on any website. And there is one made by Sush and linked on Discord by Orestov. So if the age thing shows up, you'll have to improvise and make layering for yourself. Hey, at least you'll be more unique this way. So with that followed, I hope we have some nice looking achievements prepared. So what do we want to export the images into? PNG? JPEG? You already know the answer. If it's not DDS or .texture, it will say it doesn't see the texture. Oh right, if you give it a DDS texture, you should be able to see it. For some insane reason, DDS decides that the higher the alpha is, in opacity, the more it should reflect material. For now it doesn't matter since it's just a 2D image and thus has no reflections. However, if you go and try custom means by yourself, just remember this. Use bxt5 if possible, and after exporting change file extension to .texture. Just like with previous stuff, we need to add those to their own folder, or just as if you're nuts. In main XML, we need two new tags, achievements and add files. Achievements won't see files by itself, and there's no point in adding the files if they're never used. It should look a bit like this. I am not surprised in the slightest if you feel this is a clusterfuck, so let me explain. Add files makes BeardLib search in our directory, assets GUIs achievements, for files that match achievement icon name. If you find it confusing, confuse it no more. Of course, if you want more textures added, add them as a sub tag again with a different name. Achievements tag of course needs ID, but it's a nice touch to have a banner. According to manual, 820 by 90 is ideal scale, and an icon for our bundle of achievements. Now subtag achievement is just as simple, just lengthy. This guide is a description of our achievement. For the most part, a tip how to unlock it or play this map on difficulty or above. Icon is, as you would expect, the icon we want. In this example is difficulty variant of our icon, with skull. ID is as expected unique. This is what we'll see in editor when adding achievement. And the name ID is, you guessed it, your map. What is the rank though? Think of it as a bronze, silver, gold, platinum on PlayStation. 1 is bronze while 4 is platinum. It needs to be there, so you might as well just add rarities to your achievements. With all that finally done for one achievement, in BLE use BL custom achievement element and simply make it activate in certain conditions. In case you want achievements for completing the heist, connect them to filters with according difficulties and mark them as from the start. Now those filters need to be executed by mission and element, so players get them after the heist, not before. Repeat the process for all achievements you have in mind. Try to not force achievements. If you can squeeze one in, sure, but don't change the entirety of the heist for it. Of course, add localization to desk and name IDs we've put in there. If you need to test it, if you get achievements, Go to mods, saves, achievements, numbers, and your map folder can be deleted to reset achievements. Now, with all of this you should have a grasp how to make a proper heist, correct? So go out there and make the best heist you can imagine. Just remember to make a fun heist. Wait, what were the guidelines again? Points of no return can add intensity to the heist. You can use it right. Optimization is key. Enemy spam is non-fun. Value players' time. Make objectives fun by masking them. Difficulty has to be a player's choice. Skyscraper heist. You get into skyscraper to mess with Gen 6 security and rob them in their own building. Oh boy, you know where this is going. Imagine yourself in 2020. We're in lockdown, Payday 2 is having basically a renaissance of Silk Road campaign, and you learn about custom heisting while waiting for a new Jaeger contract, arms race. You decide to dip your toes into modding and start feeling it. All the tutorials and knowledge is flowing through your brain. However, you get stuck on a roadblock. Something doesn't work, so you decide to join the place that helps people like you. Joining Discord, you can see there's a lot of people. And as you know, around 80% of the Discord server users are actually dead and the rest is alive, meaning they're not always available 24/7. Deciding your next move, you ask for help with something on throwaway account. So you wait 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Oh, you left the server. Well, whatever, there's probably some other way around that you can find. However, this 15-minute wait threw you over the board and decide to despise the server and its members for not answering your question. Let's skip forward a bit. It's 2022, Arms Race is still unreleased. However, your map is nearly done, and all your friends' efforts are not going to waste, so you start teasing with players. You post on r/Payday the Heist the teaser for your second day of the heist, then it's reg on the first. Few people have seen it, but some are excited. Some even learn custom heists are a thing. So far so good. So you release the custom skin teaser as well as custom achievement icons. Reception is great. People are hyped as hell to play your heist. You decide to give your friends a playtest, and after all of that, you're ready. You click send and wait for your 2 years of hard work on first map, at least publish one, to flow in. And here come the responses. Game crashes on day 2. This is way too long. Entire map feels like a reused asset. There's obvious issues. Was this map even playtested? This map is bad and you should feel bad. So you stand now between two paths. Either you go with the flow and fix issues, or you decide to ignore problems. Well, the decision is obvious. Call everyone hater and leave community forever, like they've killed your son who was on life support barely alive. Yep, that's pretty much how it went. This is the story of Gen 6 Raid, or rather, the heist that should not be named on Payday Maps Discord. I'm already saying, you should avoid talking about the map there. Everything that is discussed here was already done to death and there's nothing new to add. So let's start with the basics. Unless you were sleeping in the prologue of this story, you know how the creation went. You've gone big on your first map ever and decided to do as great first impression as possible. You stumbled upon the problem, and because people were busy doing live stuff, no one answered to within your short window of waiting. And then you decided to abandon not mapping, not community, entire game as a whole. So what exactly is wrong with Gen 6 Raid? Yeah, I spent a bit too much on the hate of the heist in the first draft of the script. Like, way too much. The longest part of the script in fact. So we'll speed through this. Optimization. We'll skip how this map is pretty much monstrously combined together heist objectives and location wise. Optimization is awful, no matter how you cut it. It says instantly you cannot play it on high textures, which is not the problem by itself. It's more that even with portals and occluders, it makes most PCs cry. Seriously, you can see pores on Agent 47's bald head, but you cannot play this map on lowest settings with stable frame rate above 30 FPS. And remember how I've said packages take some space? This heist takes a few. That's from Singular by the way. Spam. Enemies are being spammed on you from the get-go. First day has infinite assault for some reason in the first section, and relatively tight corridors in the second. Second day has pretty much no flanks, so you're forced to fight your way through millions of cops with spawn points literally in front of you. Time. First day is 30 minutes, with 4 to 5 waiting objectives which do not give anything of value. It's just PC soul hack. Second day is 30 minutes with 5 drills. To play this heist, you need to have at least 1 hour of free time. Most people on release played it somewhat late into the day, around 10-11 PM. Some people ended this heist on 2 AM in the same play session because they failed by some bullshit. In that time they could have done more interesting things like Mountain Master, or Midland Lunge, or take a shower, and still have half an hour to spare. Objectives. Not everything can be masked, but not masking nothing is just insanely ballsy move. As said, half of the objectives are just wait timers. No proper interruption, no proper active objectives, way too much back and forth, no sugarcoating, just drilling and hacking. Your heist doesn't need to be action movie styled. It can be normal heist like bank heist or Ukrainian job. But if you're making a hyped up heist, It better have something unique about it, because there's literally nothing in this heist that stands out other than waiting. Difficulty. In the first day you can find 5 medallions hidden around Mayhem Plus to activate Death Row. Difficulty, which is the main feature of the heist. What does it do? Make some cover impossible to use? Fair enough. Removes entrances to some areas, making you go around and look for them. Sometimes not obvious, annoying, but fair enough. I'd prefer that as a randomization. Forces you to loot 5 bags from Gensec before main drill. Why? How does that even work? It's not even set what can be robbed. Adds like 2 to 3 mini bosses to the heist which weren't there previously. All of them bullet sponges. Reminder, it's meant for the best of the best. It is strongly advised to have played this heist several times. May I ask who is insane enough to play 1 hour heist with so many issues multiple times? Especially to find secret difficulty. And if you dare to play on normal mode of the second day, you get screwed over by a trap of entire Zeal squad after the vault opens, with 2 turrets at the end to pretty much no cover, while you wait for Bale to come in. Points of no return. Bale gets shot in, shows up when you leave the vault, keeping you on toes. This is a good usage of point of no return, given there would be either no turrets or no Zeals, or mini bosses at the end. Death Row steps it up with hard cap of 40-minute timer called Death Row. It's cool and all, but with the changes 40 minutes is simply not enough, whether because damage sponges, random changes, or even game being borked. Also, this map replaces vanilla streaks, so Assault in Progress is Gensec Raid in Progress, Point of No Return is Death Row, that would light is by gets shot, and even Summer in Mexico wasn't spared. Bugs. Some are small like lack of collision for a prop, some are annoying like lights being broken on day 2, and some are huge issues like AI being unable to come in until you open the secondary entrance to the building. It happens to everyone to miss a bug. That's fine, given playtesting. Map is a train wreck and became absolute meme. Was this even tested? Neither it's fun, optimized or balanced. Surprisingly, yes. In fact, it was tested weekly according to this fellow under Carrot's video. I cannot confirm if this person was in fact a playtester, but most of the stuff would track. Feedback I gave wasn't accepted. Would be possible. Optimization was always a problem. Yup, hard to even move. Co-op endurance test. Idea is fine on paper, however, even if your 4-player crew speedrun this heist, it would end up with similar 1 hour mark, which is simply not nice, even if you ignore that some play solo, not optimally, and there's no real co-op other than fighting together while you wait for the 4th drill to finish. We decided to use in-game voice lines, not a good idea. As stated by the tester, it doesn't give you much of an idea what you should do in the heist. That and what I've already shown. Person that made the maps is on full-time job and can't work on the maps anymore. Fair enough, but it's needed unfortunately. But guy behaved like an asshole. Any criticism is flawed and he's perfect. See, normally I'd go and look back for the comment in the workshop, but it's like the one exception where both community and creator was pretty angry with each other, the point where mods needed to close comment section. Or even look back at history. Tony's triple threat creator got blocked after asking if he can help. All help that Payday maps wanted to offer was ignored. Why? Well, funny thing is, given you haven't heard intro of this, Flemmy Fox came to the server on throwaway account, asked a question which no one answered within 15 minutes, then rage quit and wrote how he dislikes Payday Maps Discord. And won't tell you why. Truly outstanding behavior. And the best part is that no one can modify the map because it's prohibited under the license. Moral is, don't be a jerk on both sides. You make maps for others to have fun, you play maps to have fun and something to look into for another release from the guy. Take criticism even if it hurts you. Of course, don't harassing the guy, he doesn't deserve it. If you are using the editor to figure out the secrets of this map, then you leave me no choice to install Linux on your PC. Fuck! There is way more you can do, like prep plugins, custom units, custom even enemy models, custom narrators, so on and so forth. But those are way beyond my knowledge, and honestly, getting to this point changes from quick 1-month project into half a year one. Unfortunately, you will need to find help somewhere else about those. In any case, thank you so much for watching if you seriously decided to make a map, or Proving Grounds number 3292 version B, like most projects end up as. Hopefully it gained you a bit of experience or knowledge even if I speedrun through a few things. Huge thanks to Luz for Cupcake for original BLD series, as well as Payday Maps Discord and people in there for helping me understand some parts of the editors. Much love to you for that. As well to Sush for deciding to use brain cells from my accent and lack of speech abilities to verify if video is good enough. In case I've done a big oopsie which breaks something, check for pinned comment if it has a mention of the problem and possible solution. Huh?
But you can't do this to me. You know how much I sacrificed?
So yeah, turns out they changing wiki host, so half of the links in the video are going to be outdated. That's fun.